Oh, good.
Hey.
Good. I didn't get a copy of that, but that's good. All right. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the June 11th Newmarket Conservation Commission meeting. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, why don't we go on to roll call? Sue?
Okay. Patrick Reynolds.
Present.
Ellen Snyder.
Here.
Chris Blackstone.
Here.
Sam Kenny.
Here.
David Bell. You there, David?
David, you just need to unmute. Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
Thank you, David.
David, so, and Melissa is excused.
Okay.
I got her email, did you?
I did. Okay.
All right, thank
And
you.
I don't see that anyone else is trying to join from the public. So it does not look like we have any members of the public here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to review and approval of the minutes from the meeting on May 14th. Does anyone have any revisions, edits, or questions on those minutes?
Hi, Chris.
Hi, thanks, Sue.
Okay, on page 3, the last paragraph above adjourn shall read New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commission's annual meeting. Chris Blackstone, who is a member of the board of directors for the NHACC, mentioned that a decision will be made within a day or two of June 5th if the state association is going to cancel the annual meeting, which is held in November. The subcommittee for the meeting is recommending that it be canceled for 2020, but a full vote of the board is necessary at the meeting on June 5th. This year is the 50th anniversary celebration, and it would be unfortunate to cancel rather than host like the Tokyo Olympics. For health considerations, paramount on the minds of the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commission Board of Directors is the health and safety of all members.
Motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you, Ellen.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I could second that.
Okay. All in
Thank you.
favor of approving the minutes with those changes?
Aye.
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 3-4, Sam?
Aye.
Okay. 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the treasurer's report. I did not receive a report. Ellen, did you receive a report?
So I spoke with Carol Sheehan in the finance office today. She didn't send me any new information. You had sent me some sort of the documents you get back in May. So this is from April. So I can report on that. And I just would like to hear from you what you all usually get, or does the treasurer just report out the totals? But let me report the totals and you can tell me what you would normally expect to get for documents.
Okay.
So the general fund balance is $1,050.08 as of June 11th. So she sent me that today. So the total general fund budget is $29.41 for the year, which I guess ends the end of June. Newmarket's fiscal year, I think, is right July 1st to June 30th. So there's a fair bit of balance for the next 2 weeks. The conservation fund balance is $226,104.72. That was as of May 11th. And within that, sorry, go ahead.
I think that does reflect the Tucker
It does.
Tucker property purchase.
I think it does. It shows up on there. And it shows a balance within the conservation fund for the Richard Shanda Fund as $764.46.
Okay,
I did speak with Richie Shelton today, or emailed him. The Shopmire Park Fund, as of what Carol had sent me, as of April 30th, was $7,924.03, but I think they may have spent some more. I'm not sure. She wasn't sure. I'm actually meeting with Richie tomorrow at the property, and we'll go over
okay,
the fund and the issues and whatever else he wants to talk about. I'm
Okay.
officially actually on the Shopmire Park committee from when it began, so this will be a good opportunity for me to sort of reconnect and bring it forward to the Conservation Commission next month.
that is
Nice.
fantastic. Great to hear that. Thank you, Ellen.
Sure. So do you normally get like all the printouts that Carol would send, or do you want just one or two?
We normally would get those printouts with those fund balances that you just reviewed,
Okay.
and then any expenditures that we would have had. And normally, the two expenditures that we would have normally had at this time of year, which we did not have this year, we did not have anyone apply for the scholarship for the second year in a row. I reached out to the school and let them know that the money was there and that they just had to contact us. And we just never heard back from them, which I only had one. Apparently, there was one student who was interested, but never did anything to apply for it. So I kind of feel bad because it's it's not a lot of money, but it's usually been around, I believe, around $1,000 or $1,500. Does that sound right, Sue? Sue always knows the answer to these.
Mhm.
Whether it was 1,000 or 1,500, I'm not sure. And then the other thing that we normally have an expenditure of this time of year is the Newmarket Fishing Derby. And we usually also do about $1,500 towards that fishing derby. However, this year, right now, the fishing derby is postponed until September. So they may come back to us in August and ask us for that money. So we didn't have those two expenditures this year. I believe Chris sent me an email on this that I think we're all paid up for last year on our annual cost for being part of the New Hampshire Conservation Commission Association, but we might owe for this year. Isn't that right, Sue or Chris?
You're muted.
Yeah. No, we're paid up through the last bill. I mean, they bill us, so
Okay.
we don't have to worry about that until they bill us. I could look.
All right. I just know Chris reached out to me and asked if we had anything outstanding, and I wasn't sure if we had paid this year.
Yeah, we're up to date and could attend a meeting.
Okay.
Everybody could go.
And then the only other thing, Ellen, sort of to return to the budget would be normally if there's been any change of use funds that are coming into the account, you would just report on what those were.
Right. She did send a spreadsheet that showed some contributions, but back on September 19th of last year, 3 different deposits of $4,000, so $12,000 last September, but nothing since.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, a lot of payments have been coming in from the golf course development, but I don't know kind of where they are with sales out there at this point, if they've sold all those. And I don't know.
One question I asked Carol, which she did not know the answer to, was do those deposits go into the conservation fund when they come in, or like quarterly or once a year? Or do you know if I think she said that was the tax clerk's a question for them.
Yeah, it might be.
Okay.
Usually I in the past believe we've seen them at least quarterly. Like they have come in throughout the year.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just one time. Um, so
These were all on the same date. I think they're all from the golf course, but it seemed odd that they were all on the same date. So that's what I was wondering.
so it could just be that's when the transfer occurred. I don't think it's tied to the actual transaction date that the sale occurred on.
Okay.
There
I'll check on
certainly
that.
are.
November,
Yeah, there's
it was November 14th, 2019, and we received money from 23 Honeycomb Way, 40 Honeycomb Way, and 2 Firefly Lane.
That's what I have. The dates are different, but
Yeah, but that was when it got reported to us because we hadn't gotten a spreadsheet
okay.
till then. So
so
that's
yeah,
the
that would be the other thing. So yeah, that's always good to see because that's our only source of funds coming in because
Mhm.
we don't typically get much appropriated funds from the town council, and I certainly wouldn't be expecting anything coming this year.
Mhm.
I'm sure belts are being tightened, so we'll be totally dependent on that, on any transfers that come in. And that money usually goes in the conservation fund and is going towards purchase of either easements or land. So, well, thank you. That's a good update. Did you have anything else to add to that?
No, just I talked to Carol and we talked about her sending me something the first week of every month. Sounds like things come in at different times, but whatever we have, we can report out every month.
Okay. As I stated, I did state earlier, I have not heard of who has been appointed from either the town council or the planning board. Typically, those committee assignments would have come out probably in May because people are elected in March and then their assignments come after they've had a couple meetings. So hopefully I can understand if they're distracted with other things right now. So there's no major pressing issues with us with town council at this time. And I have received nothing from as far as reviewing anything for the planning board as far as wetlands permits or any kind of pending things that are requiring our review. Seems to be at a total standstill at this point. So I'll go on to the chairman's report. How many of you, and I know Ellen was on the call, was anyone else able to be on the call for the wildlife corridors meeting that happened on Monday that was organized by a bunch of different groups? It was New Hampshire Fish and Game, CELT, the Nature Conservancy, a couple other, I think
Cooperative extension, I think.
Cooperative Extension, yep. Was anyone else on that call? Okay.
We
I
did just
sent you-
get the link, though, to be able to get it in the recording. I had signed
Yeah.
up for it and couldn't do it after all, but now everybody can.
Okay. And I sent you guys a link to the report. So I'm sure Alan could tell you too how helpful it is. I thought it was great as far as providing information, and I'll go ahead and share my screen here just for a second to show you all.
Oh, yeah.
Can you guys see this? Okay.
I have my black.
All right. All right.
Vanna Frick.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
I don't have a cat.
There. Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
No. All right.
I see Sue's.
Thought I was sharing. Huh. Share.
I can talk a little bit about what the map shows while you're trying to get that up, Patrick. So the main goal of the map is to show where they've identified, oh, there it is. So they've identified high priority habitat blocks, as well as the connections, which is sort of the new key piece of, if we have protected these blocks, that's great, but wildlife move across the landscape, so they need connections. And the map is a little hard to
14.
read actually a little bit, but the yellow areas are the connections, and typically those are along rivers, which makes sense, right? Streams and rivers, riparian areas that are connecting existing habitat blocks. And a lot of the darker colors are both existing conserved land, as well as additional parts of those blocks that would be great if they could be conserved or left as open space. So again, the map is you have to kind of study the map a little bit, but there still are some important, well, I don't know, Patrick, I can go on. I looked at the map pretty closely, and there are some other important areas remaining in Newmarket, as you can expect, along Great Bay, off a new road, some out in the western part. And then the connections, primarily are along the Piscassic River and out at Ash Swamp and Tuttle Swamp area. Those are sort of the big connections that we still have. And Lumberland Creek, there's a little bit of connection there. So, so I think the map will be useful as we do any project. Like if we look at, a planning board project that comes forward, we could look at this map. If we're looking at additional land conservation, we could look at this map. Individual landowners can look at the map and see if they're in an important area. One final thought before you can jump in, Patrick, but I'm pretty familiar with the land conservation layer for Newmarket. Been working on this for a really long time, and there's actually some errors in the land conservation layer, which is not terribly significant in terms of this project, but I've been wanting to make those corrections for a really long time, and so at some point we should take a look at those and maybe get the help of the Rockingham Planning Commission, and to get there's just some errors in our land conservation layer. I guess that's the best way to say it. They're not big, but I think they're important enough that we should fix them.
Helen,
That's good to know.
It has to do with Tuttle Swamp. There was some issues years ago with where Tuttle Swamp.
Yeah, so that's so if you go over and look at the left there, Tuttle Swamp, where the label is, and there's a bright green polygon at the north end that borders the town of, so wait, I can't point to. So that bright green rectangle way up at the top of the boundary of Newmarket at the north end there, above the words Tuttle Swamp, that actually is conservation land. So it's always been left off for some reason, but that was part of the original project that conserved some of the land out there. So that should be filled in. If you go back over to Heron Point to the east, you'll see that the polygon for Heron Point is inaccurate. It's for some reason, it's just sort of showing the outer parts of it as being conserved, whereas the whole thing is conserved. You see that? And then to the northeast, you see the Schultz Place open space. That was a subdivision proposed, I think, in the 1980s, and it was going to be a conservation open space plan, and that was going to be the open space. That never happened. That open space does not exist. So anyway, that's like 2 or 3. There's like 4 or 5 others like that are, again, not hugely significant, but it'd be nice to fix. And I'm not entirely sure why Loisel is gray instead of dark like the rest of the conserved land. So I'm not quite clear on a few of those things. But again, that's just like,
It said it's prioritized, and I'm not sure. I didn't go ask Pete Steckler why from the Nature Conservancy. He was, I think, largely responsible for this report. What that meant, what the significance of that is, I wasn't sure.
Well, that's where the colors are a little hard to figure out, because there's a lot of layers.
It's really the only one that's that color is Picassic Loisel, and I don't think there's anything else that is, well, this over here, part of the Lubberman's Creek Preserve has got some of that coloring too.
But if you look at the key, I think that just means that it's public open space. It doesn't mean it's the part of the priority block. That's why it's a little, if you look at the colors, it's a little confusing. So we just need
Well, it
to,
just says, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be this color or this
Right.
color. I'm a little colorblind, so maybe that's
Yeah.
part of it.
yeah. Anyway,
Um,
that's sort of just the additional things. It doesn't really affect the concept of the map. So.
Right. And the other thing to know, which I don't, you could have gotten this if you went on the New Hampshire Coastal Viewer, which is the UNH Granite program, which I know some of you are pretty familiar with from your work and just other things that you do, and some of you may not be. But what this has in it also is all the, generally, again, this isn't precision, but generally you're seeing these are property lot lines here. So one of the things that they talked about is that one of the challenges of this is that some of these corridors, they don't fall within big blocks of land. A lot of them are sort of smaller size pieces of land. So that could potentially, it makes it a little different. The way typically conservation has been considered has been, focused more on larger blocks of land, whereas this is putting more of a premium on these corridors, because if we don't maintain the corridors, basically we're saying that the animals that depend on them could potentially be excluded from the southern part, the southeastern part of New Hampshire. So really we're talking about Rockingham and Stratford counties, and those are the primary areas that they're looking at with this. Although they're looking at now expanding that to look at more areas, because adjacent areas would connect to these corridors, so that potentially animals would be, using a larger areas. But anyway, it was really helpful, and I thought the PowerPoint's helpful to go through and look at. And it's kind of interesting to just see, the corridors that we have right now that are probably, if we were to put out some game cameras, we probably would see how many animals are traveling through these corridors in Newmarket. I mean, they talked about the larger ones obviously being deer, bear, and coyotes and bobcats, but also smaller animals in weasels, otters, martens, and then things like Blanding's turtle on the reptile side. So lots of species that people sort of like to see or like to think about, or in their backyards. But in order for that to happen, um, this kind of planning will have to be incorporated into the regional conservation strategy. So part of the idea of this meeting was to bring together lots of different people from conservation commissions all across these counties, and then the experts, people from SELT and people from the Nature Conservancy and the Cooperative Extension, and New Hampshire Fish and Game had a non-game biologist on the call, so it was a good group. So yeah, I encourage you all to look at that and learn a little bit more about it.
Patrick, can I add one more? Can I add one more piece that was so in sort of the question answer period, you mentioned the non-game biologists. So one of the things that the non-game folks at Fish and Game are working with DOT, and they're working on best management practices for particularly for roads and culverts. So as you know, like in Newmarket, we did that one on Bay Road, right? So the culvert was too small for water flow and also for wildlife, so it was improved. And so they're trying to do that, statewide. That's like a really big impact that could affect wildlife and aquatic organisms. Because if you look at the corridors, a lot of them are along riparian areas or streams and rivers, and so a lot of the issues are related to crossings.
Yeah.
So they're working on that. Unfortunately, it looks like it's about 6 months to a year out in terms of when those BMPs will be ready. But I thought that was one of the most exciting things in terms of guidance that we all could really use. We could work with our communities and just really improve these crossings for wildlife. So
Yeah,
come sooner than later.
it would certainly be great if we could see more of what happened out on Bay Road, because that is going to make a huge difference, I think. I know they already did they've been some sampling out there to try and get sort of set what are we seeing today, and so in the future they can kind of say here's where we saw an increase. So all right. So as I was saying before about the fishing derby, I did hear from the folks at the fishing derby. It was clear the fishing derby wasn't going to happen because the state had already put in place a I didn't realize my video had stopped. The state had put in place a moratorium on fishing derbies, so you couldn't hold a fishing derby. So the folks who organized the fishing derby have decided to shoot for a September date, and it would still be held at Amanda Richmond's Pond, and everything else would be the same. It's just trying to see if they can get it in later this year. So I thought that was some creative thinking on their part, and we'll wait and see what happens. All right. Under old and new business, on the Shanda Park fence, I did put in some calls to some fencing companies to I need to try and get some people out to do some estimates, and I'm hoping to have the first one next week, and so I can kind of get an idea because I'm not sure. I believe if we are above $1,500, then we'll have to get it put out for bid. And if not, we can, if we like whatever they come back with, we could look and see if that is something we want. I'm not sure, what the best solution is. So that's why I want to brainstorm with the people in the fencing company. I mean, I think something wooden would look better there. I don't want it to look like a chain link fence or something like that. That would be really unattractive down there. I want it to try and blend in as much as possible. But at the same time, it still has to accomplish the goal, which is to make the area more safe so that people don't go into an area that's not safe for them to be standing or walking down there. So I don't have any other update on that. It's been kind of hard to get people to call you back right now. I don't know if it's just they're really busy, which I hope that's what it is, or it's that they're just not doing that many jobs right now. I'm not sure what it is. The Tucker property purchase is pretty much all done. The last part that we're working on is the grant to get reimbursed for some of the money that we spent, which will be around $5,000. Actually, it'll be less than that. I think it'll be closer to $1,000. It was everything over $100,000 that we spent that we were going to get back. and we didn't end up going that much over $100,000. I think it was like $101,000. And Dwayne Hyde from CELT has very generously pretty much done all the paperwork for us and sent it off to us. And now it's in the hand of the town manager, who has to do all the signing and all that for the town. And then that should be complete. So that's exciting. I don't have any update on Clark Farm. I haven't heard anything more from CELT on that. I don't know where that sits right now. So I'm hoping Jeremy will have something for me next month. I believe originally that's when he said he would be getting back to me, was July. And then the last thing we had, which I'll kind of defer again to Ellen a little bit on this, but we talked about going out and looking at Heron Point, one, to put together a more formal sign which would indicate the trails that we really want to be on, and also just survey some of the tree damage that we have out there, where we've had some emerald damage to the ash trees. So I don't know, Ellen, what else you have to share on that.
Sure. So it was back in March when we were starting to look at the trail reroutes, and Drew and I were going to go back out, and then COVID came along. So I saw Drew last week. So we're trying to regroup and probably try to get out there next week, probably after work for him. So some evening we're going to go back out and relook at some of the trail reroutes to get around some really wet clay soils and take in that extra area that people seem to want to take into the east.
Yeah.
We'll try to do that next week, and then we'll hopefully bring back a draft map again for the next meeting on the trail part. And then I just got an email from Greg Jordan, who's the county forester for cooperative extension. They were closed for all site visits, and apparently just opened up, but I think it's still single person visits. So he and I scheduled a visit for next Wednesday morning to go look at the tree. Apparently they're supposed to ask if you have a fever. I have no fever today. Hopefully I'll have no fever on Wednesday. But if somebody really wants to come, I can ask if a second person can come along, but I'm not quite sure of their field protocols yet. But so we'll take a look at the trees and get his recommendation. He's extremely good Extension County forester, so I think he'll have some good suggestions for us. So I can bring that back to next meeting, but if someone's really dying to join us, I can check with him to see if we can, have another person.
I just have a general question. Is there anything that you can do about the emerald ash borer, or is it's just a matter of time before they get to other ash trees?
Well, if you have an individual ash tree, they're working on some things, injecting some things. There's actually UNH is doing a research project at a town-owned property in Durham. So they're looking at whether young trees versus old trees have more resistance, and whether they can, there's a wasp that they're releasing. And so they're still doing some research, but until they figure all that out and whether there's something that can be done, pretty much they think the ash are going to all die. Unfortunately, it's kind of like the Dutch elm disease at this point, until they can, see if there's some ash or something they can do to retain genetically resistant trees. Yeah, and I think a lot of the ash, there's not a lot of ash at Heron Point, but I think most of them are dead already. So.
Right. I agree with you. When I went out there, it was clear that a lot of them were already dead, but I'm just thinking of other parts of town. There are a few that I know of where we have some really actually large ash trees, and I would hate to see those get lost. I think they're mostly on other people's property, so I would just encourage anyone who has ash trees on their property, especially if you have a larger, older one that you would like to keep, you may want to reach out. You could certainly probably reach out to the county forester, UNH cooperative, to see if there's anything you can do, because I was walking along, Grant Road, and I did see some others that looked dead there. And I don't know, they could have died for another reason, but I don't know why otherwise healthy ash trees die suddenly. I'm assuming I don't even know what it looks like when they die from the emerald ash borer. Like if you can see
Yeah,
animals.
there's some definitely signs.
Yeah.
Woodpecker damage is actually a pretty key indicator.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what these had.
Yeah.
If you go out there and he has any other information on that, that would be great to I think to share. I might even see if we could get Melissa to put that out on the Facebook page, because that does seem to be like a really helpful place where people actually are going to get information right now. So we've been putting lots of stuff out there about the pollinators, or Melissa has. So that's been great, and I know they've appreciated that information that we've been sharing. I also did hear from that group, and because there was a question about when we should be mowing Wigan Farm, because it seems like no matter when we mow it, no matter how late we mow it, we still get people saying that we're mowing it too early. She was saying that October 1st is generally a safe date, but I almost want to say if we could move it out closer to November 1st. I don't know if that's realistic, but I just hate the thought of anyone saying that they're still seeing monarchs out there and we mow it and somehow hurt the butterflies. I don't want that to happen, but
I don't know if it's feasible for the town, but the milkweed is not everywhere on that property. And there are other reasons to mow a meadow earlier for like bobolinks and other species. So we may want to see if we could get the extension, wildlife extension specialist out, Matt Tarr, to talk about, he's pretty good on grassland management for wildlife, to see if maybe we want to mow the milkweed area later.
right.
But the problem is, as you get later and later, and if you skip years, you start to get woody growth, and you start to get invasives. And the composition changes. We want milkweed, but there's a lot of other species which we want as well. So we don't want to exclude those in terms of the management. So it might just be worth having Matt come out.
Yeah, it was in 2017. We did a big project out there, and we got a lot of invasive stuff beat back to the edge of the field again, back to the stone wall. And so that enables them to mow it closer to that stone wall, which keeps it a little bit in place. But yeah, the other place we still need to look at removing some of the larger invasive piles that we have at the top of the hill, where one of the apple trees has been completely grown over by invasives, and that will require like something beyond what the town has to mow. I forget what those are called, but I've seen them on other properties. It's more like a brush cutter that they use. So,
Biologically, once the emerald ash borer has done its deed and they're all together and they've all killed this tree, where do they go, or do they just die? Do they?
So the adults fly. So when they fly, they're going to fly off to other ash, and it's the larvae, I think, that do the damage.
Oh, right.
So the adults lay their eggs, larvae hatch, do their thing. The adults now go on to some other tree, lay more eggs.
Yeah. Do you remember when Main Street in Durham had nothing but elms down the entire?
I don't remember that, but yeah.
Do you, Chris? Do you remember?
I don't remember that, but I do remember this planting session.
One by one they got cut down, but it was completely lined with elm trees all the way down through town.
Yeah, the lesson is we have to plant more diversity when we do those sorts of
Yeah, don't give them a nice, easy place to hop to the next tree. Make them work for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just back for a sec to Heron Point. So Greg, and we'll also look at the hemlock woolly adelgid, because the hemlock are also infested, unfortunately, with that, which is also invasive, non-native pest. And it would be really a shame to lose all the hemlock on Heron Point along the waterway. So
And just when you think it was safe to go outside, the spotted lanternfly is coming soon at a theater near you. It's moving north, and people aren't yet sure. Is it due to weather? Is it a one-off because of weather? Is it an overall because of climate? Is it what else is this thing eating and enjoying, and how is it coming through Pennsylvania and our direction? So get ready for that one, folks.
one of the things that would be nice to focus on and get word out wise is for all of us, landowners, residents, people who are managing our yards in our town, is how do we, promote diversity of species, right? Of native plant species, so that there aren't these concentrations of monocultures. And maintaining diverse yards is beneficial. You have predators that feed on some of these invasives, so that they're not just having a free pass, as Chris was saying, to just, march on through. So
We might think of the Conservation Commission could think of having, say, a 15 minutes or 20 minutes presentation, a portion of our monthly meetings dedicated to an invited speaker. So we would be learning, but really and truly, since Tim's group is recording these and putting these on the live, the closed circuit, and this could be recorded and whatnot, that information can go to all the viewers. And I also think that if we were to say every meeting has a theme or a guest speaker, we could also maybe see more members of the public enjoying a jaunt over once it's open again to town hall, or if it's Zoom again in the winter, being able to really realize, I'm looking forward to this, I'm going to Zoom in, I'm going to join the meeting, and I'm going to hear a Matt Tarr or oh golly, Rachel Massini or somebody talking about the pests, the invasives, or hearing from some of the other groups that we'd like to be partnering with and learning more from.
how about I invite Greg Jordan to come, and he can report what we find rather than me, sort of trying to interpret.
Yeah, that'd be a great launch of this. Yeah.
He's
That
very
would be
good.
great.
Yeah.
So yeah, ask him if he I know it can be hard in the summer. So yeah, ask him if he has a preference, whether it's July or August.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to. I love that idea, Chris and Ellen, of
Thank you.
getting some guest speakers in. I was actually was interested in getting someone in too. So I think that's a good idea, and we can if anyone has any ideas of other people that they're. I mean, I thought that we had the great one with the pollinator folks last January, which kind of got interrupted because we got kicked out of town hall at the last possible minute, so that was kind of difficult. But yeah, I think those guest speakers have a lot to offer.
And fortunately for us, and thinking of our budget, it's part of their outreach and quote unquote part of their job, but it's really beyond their job. I think it's their passion to say, this is an audience I'm reaching, and these are people that are genuinely interested, and these are deciders and land stewards to get that message too. So I think it'd be mutually beneficial that we are offering them the forum, and we are a great audience. So.
Okay, well, let's keep our fingers crossed that Greg has some availability to do that. That would be great to hear from him. I'd love to hear more about that. And then just in general, good practices, like Ellen was saying, that we can share with others. I do feel like we're getting a lot of stuff out. I do see a lot of comments and questions about stuff that's come out about the yard, which is more focused on the pollinator part. And I have had some, discussions with people who asked me about that. So I think that at least is getting out there. Some people are interested in taking that approach with their yard and creating more pollinator opportunities and going a little more natural in their yard. Okay, does anyone have anything else tonight?
I had two quick things, Patrick, if that's okay.
Yeah,
The first is just before this meeting, I was with the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, and there will be a fall event. It will be on Zoom. It won't be live, but they were very excited. We've all done some research on other Zoom meetings and Zoom formats and what other organizations have had to cancel or postpone a conference. And we were able to have Plymouth State is where it was supposed to be in November, but they're rolling over the money and the contract and all that to next year. And we're taking the chance this year, which we're working on, to have there be some sort of an event at an extremely reduced price for Conservation Commission folks to participate in educational sessions. So that will still be in November in one form or another, but that was just coming out of our meeting just before this one. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, or Melissa and I wanted to bring up, was about the photo exhibit like we had last year. And Mary Ann was on that committee with us. So this input's just from Melissa and I, who are still serving as a committee, so to speak, for the photo event. And we decided to recommend that we not do it at a place, have a reception. We didn't think it was prudent to schedule an event at a place. It seemed like too big of a burden to ask a business that might be coming back from some COVID problems, let alone we don't know what the autumn could look like for secondary, maybe closures or diminished audience capability or customer capability in a space. But we wanted to see if the commission would go forward with, we advertise and we write articles about and get PR about having still a photo contest, but work with the New Hampshire Business Association and see if the business association members would each so-called adopt an artist and take a couple of photos from artists and put in their store windows. So we could at least still have a sense of celebrating the use of the conservation lands and having artist photographers be able to say, I was here, here's a picture of my caterpillar or the chrysalis or whatever it was I saw, and have those still get printed 8x10 like we did last, actually like almost 9x11, but have that size photo printed, matted, and then businesses could display those either in their business or in their windows, depending on their location, so that the conservation could, our commission could still say, this is our second year doing it. This is how we responded because of COVID, but we still want to give people an opportunity to be creatively expressive while we're promoting getting out and enjoying the conservation lands. So,
and the other thing I think we could probably ask is if Tim Kremen could, I bet we could put together a slideshow.
Yeah.
And he could play that on TV.
Yeah.
So people could have their artwork, their photo work displayed that way too.
Tim likes it.
Yeah.
Nice. So between the Tim's work, putting a banner, what do you call it? Like thumbnails or banner pictures on the Facebook, on the Instagram. I'm hoping somebody adopts Instagram instead of Casey, or, in place of Casey, and see what the Newmarket business says. We would like to continue in this form. I love the TV idea. Thank you, Patrick. So if we approve that, or if we like that, we'll start interfacing and putting publicity out, and everything will be standing as it was this time, with the people submitting it, agreeing that the photo is ours to use, how we might want to use it at some time in the future. And I think it's just a creative, wonderful opportunity, especially with people reading so much now about getting outdoors is great for mental health coming out of this stay-at-home order and whatnot. So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly take a vote if you think we need to.
I didn't know if you needed to or not, but
I think we were fine to just go ahead and say you
just
guys
do it.
can go ahead. I mean, yeah, because we're not doing a cash prize or anything for it. It's just we're going to promote them. Basically, we're going to give them as much publicity as we can give them for their work if they submit, and we'll try and publicly display and use media. So I think we should proceed.
All right, onward. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, we'll look forward to hearing more. And so, yeah, I guess the only other takeaway that I would say is, if anyone has any other ideas about guest speakers, I think it's never too early to ask people and to get, if you have someone, if we know we want to do this, you can then work with them on a possible second Thursday of the month that might work for them in the future, and just, share that with the group. Say, I have a suggestion for this person on this date, just so people know, because I know sometimes these people in particular, these subject matter experts, are in demand. So if you can get on their calendar in advance, that always helps, because they're pretty busy. Okay, was that it, Chris, or did you have anything?
No, that was my two things.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Anyone else?
Yeah, Patrick, I just shot you an email a few minutes ago, but I just went through the process of getting a fence at my house. So I've been talking to a lot of people within the last month. So send you a couple names as well as a picture of what I ended up putting in, which might fit the bill somewhat for what you were describing, of something not overly intrusive, I guess.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
take a look at that. Let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you. All right. No one else has anything else? I'll go ahead and make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:54. Second on that motion?
Sure, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
500. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.